wanted to talk to you not necessarily about my work. You've heard about a lot of it, and you can Google me anytime. But I really wanted to talk to you about what today is and this loyalty luncheon and what Kappa Delta has meant to me and what my sisters have meant to me for my entire life. Sorry, I haven't even gotten to the story yet. So almost the day after graduating from UT in Knoxville, I walked across the street, literally next door to the Panhellenic building, and went off to law school. And imagine what your first day is like when you're sitting there and there's a room full of people and some austere professor is standing up talking to you about law school, and they say, look to your right and look to your left. And the reason I'm using a male's voice is because all the professors then were men except one female. One of you won't be here next year. And what a way to start your professional career. So I wanted to say to you, here is my wonderful pledge class. And it's just so incredible to look and see how many of these people that are still some of my dearest, dearest friends. Don't tell them they don't know I'm showing this picture. But I really wanted to tell you to look left and right today. And when you get back, especially with all your sisters in your particular chapters, because I hope that they're the ones who are going to be with you every single day for the rest of your lives. My sisters certainly were. I met them on a hot, sweaty August day in 1974. I can't believe I said that year, and they are literally still my best friends, my biggest cheerleaders, my strongest supporters, and my therapist, yes, when I'm feeling down about myself. So we did spend what we say are the most wonderful days together, really from being potluck in a dorm room, and we all end up KDs together. It was just absolutely wonderful. And then we were brides and bridesmaids together. We survived not only motherhood, but having teenagers. And in fact, it's very interesting that our children have become dear friends as well, even though that many of us live in different cities. We certainly celebrated many, 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 many birthdays and careers and promotions and moves around the country, and they were at my side at the White House when I was sworn into the FCC. And now we're even celebrating our daughters' weddings. And somehow, really incredibly, our bricks ended up almost next to each other at the brand new KD house in Knoxville. And if you all haven't seen it yet, you have to come. It's the most stunning house on the entire campus and, of course, probably in the country. And I want to do a shout out. Two of my sorority sisters are here, Tina and Shannon, and they won the prestigious Order of the Emerald, so please give them another round of applause. And if you didn't notice, we're the only chapter who has two of them. So I do want to share a little bit. What's so interesting is it is like these were the life lessons that I wanted to talk to you about. I can't believe that I put together these remarks without ever having seen this, and I looked down and thought, well, I guess they think I'm just going to read their card back to them. But these are really, really important points. So one, I want to tell you a little bit about my career, just a little bit, and then I also want to tell you a story at the end about a freshman in KD. So the number one thing that people, oh, there are bricks. I'm so excited. Anyway. So I think the next slide is how did you get there? And the reason that I added this is because every single event I go to, when there are, Q&A or whatever, the very first question is, so how did you get there? And so it was a little bit of a circuitous route, but as you all heard, I started at UT Law School, and then I followed my husband. We got married, and he had a job in Nashville, so I moved to Vanderbilt, and then I ended up doing a lot of both government work and public service work. But the reason that this slide is up here is because I wanted to talk about being at the right place at the right time and how important it is to both work for people and find mentors who can make a difference in your life and actually call upon you to be the best that you can possibly be. So before I even moved to Nashville, I wrote then Governor, now Senator Alexander, and I said, I would like to come and work for you. I met you at law school and I escorted you around. And I got a form letter back that said, thank you so much, we don't have any positions. And so as soon as I got to Nashville, I just started calling the governor's office, and I'd call about once a week, and they finally said, would you just come down here and volunteer so you quit calling us every week? And so I did, and then that led in 2 weeks to a paying job, and then that led to being the general counsel for the governor, and then I ended up working for another governor, and then obviously going on to be a presidential appointee. So I have something that I want you all to do. I want everybody to close your eyes. Please, I really mean it, close your eyes. I want you to think about someone in your life. Pamela just told you about the drama coach. Someone that really made a difference, who really believes in you, who tells you you can do anything. Okay, open your eyes. I bet that person is not the most gorgeous Hollywood celebrity that you've ever seen in your life. I bet they haven't been photoshopped every time that they have a picture taken, because it's not how that person looks, it's how that person has made you feel. So I hope one of the things you do after you get home, because you'll be too exhausted while you're in Boston, but write that person a note, because it's really, really incredible what those people do in your life. So Senator Alexander has been one of those mentors to me. He has a phrase that he would start almost every single morning with, and that is, reach for the stars because you might just get there. And he really believes it, and he really tells it to everybody that works for him. So that's what I'm really trying to say to you all. Reach for the stars. Dare to dream really, really big things. Work hard. Take the opportunities that come your way, including working for free. Every once in a while, it happens to work out. My next slide, I think, is one with Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, and you all know that she was the first female ever appointed to the United States Supreme Court. But this isn't about what an incredible jurist she was, or all of the glass ceiling that she shattered, or about some of the most important decisions that she was the lead jurist on while at the Supreme Court. This photo was actually taken at a convention very much like this. The Junior League has a convention where they honor the volunteer of the year, and it was Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. Okay, I didn't write this in my speech, but I've got to tell you all the story. So her husband is adorable. Very sadly, he now has Alzheimer's, as you all probably know. He was going to introduce her, and he gets up and he just starts going on and on and on about how she was the most beautiful girl in law school he had ever seen. And it took him a whole semester to work up his courage to walk up to her, because he was very shy. And he finally asked her if she would go get some coffee or study with him. She gets up and she says, "Okay, girls, there were only 2 of us in the whole law school." She is just amazing. So anyway, she was actually receiving the award for the Volunteer of the Year because after she went to Washington, she still baked homemade bread every single week and went and fed the homeless. I think that's pretty extraordinary. So I've been so fortunate to have people like Senator Alexander and Justice Sandra Day O'Connor to be mentors to me. So one of the rules in life is just do good wherever you go and no matter how important you become. So if a cowgirl, and that is what Sandra Day O'Connor calls herself, from Arizona, and a girl from rural Tennessee can make it in Washington, then I have no doubt that you all can make it as the leaders of tomorrow. So be open to all these new experiences that may come your way. If you can believe this, I was 49 years old when the president called. Most of my friends were already starting to think about if they were going to go live at the beach in retirement. And so I packed up and moved to an apartment in Washington and have really never stopped since then. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you all about too is never sabotaging yourself. And the reason I put this on here, and I don't know if you all have ever had anyone come speak about this, but sometimes we do the worst jobs at promoting ourselves. This is really, really amazing. Research shows that men overestimate their IQ by numerous points. And I know you aren't going to believe this one. And they always, I'm sorry for all the men in the room, and they always overestimate their experience, not just in our country, but in 30 other countries as well. So we seem to want to list our inadequacies, for instance. Both men and women, and this is shocking, and this was very upsetting to me as a mother, both men and women believe that their sons are brighter than their daughters. And yet, what are the facts? Girls do better in almost every single subject throughout their whole educational careers. So we have to change this, and for everybody in the room who has children, we failed and we're sorry. For all of you all who will be mothers one day, your daughters are smarter than your sons. And that's why your Confidence Coalition is absolutely so critical, because we have got to start telling girls so that they can realize all the benefits that are available to them. One of the things that I wanted to also suggest is I was asking if you all still do Miss Gracious Living, because of course that was something very important to all of us when I was growing up. But one of the things that I took away from being Miss Gracious Living was no matter where I go, I take small gifts or little things to give away. For instance, there are these pins, I don't know if you all have seen them, for every country that have Washington and another flag. So I just got back from Israel and I just took a bag of those, and almost everybody I met, people remember when you give them a piece of yourself. So I think that's something that Katie really, really helped me to do. Also, be open to opportunities, and this is an example of being open to one. I have a funny example, and that is one of my bosses walked in and said, "Debbie, would you like to go to Paris?" And I said, "I always love going to Paris." And he said, "I mean tomorrow at 5:30? And I ended up going. It was wonderful. So be open to those. But a substantive example of that is Governor Sundquist, another governor from Tennessee, called me one morning, and actually we were all eating breakfast. I was fixing my kids' pancakes, and he said, "I want to appoint you to be the chairman of this commission," and it oversaw electricity, telecommunications, utilities, water, gas, and yes, sewers. And I immediately started doing what I said not to do, and I was backpedaling. "Oh, I haven't had that experience. I don't think I could do that. Are you really sure you want me for it?" And he said this, "I know you. I know how hard you work. I've read your legal opinions. All I want is someone who is fair and honest and will follow the law." And I said, "I can do that." So that was one of the most important jobs that I ever took, and one that I really didn't feel that I had the experience to do. But without being open to that, without taking that job, I would have never, ever been considered for the FCC in Washington. So Abraham Lincoln wrote a quote that I taped on my desk as soon as I got to Washington, and I think it's a great one. "I never had a policy. I have just tried to do the very best each and every day." I think that's something that all of us can do. We need to do what men have been doing for a long time. I know you all have heard of the Old Boys Club, and of course, fraternities do this much better than we do, and that is that we have really got to support one another. And one of the ways to do that is when you do succeed or when you do realize your dreams, that we have to reach back and give back to others, and especially younger women. So that's what is, again, so wonderful about the confidence platform that you all are trying to do, to reach back to another generation. I'm so thrilled with your work with the Girl Scouts because I'm working with them as well, and I hear that some of you all may actually be serving as troop leaders or advisors, and that you've actually raised money for scholarships. So on behalf of the Girl Scouts, I really want to thank you. I can't tell you how wonderful it was when I was in Washington. I got the phone call about, oh yeah, there's this group of young women, I think it's called a sorority, and they want to come to Washington and they want to talk about healthy media. And I said, really? Do you know what the name of the sorority is? And the person on the other line at the phone said, it's called Kappa Delta. Have you ever heard of it? And that's one of those wonderful circle of life stories. And I said, oh my gosh, oh yes, I am just so excited that you all came to Washington. Was anybody part of the group of women that came to DC and met with the senators and the congressmen? Anybody here? Well, if you haven't done it yet, I'm really suggesting that you all do this. And let me tell you that now people in Washington know who Kappa Delta is, and that they know that you are all about having a healthier media environment. I just am so proud of all of you all. And here's our picture with Gina. And so I hope if you all come, maybe you'll be able to get to see her. We've been talking about the possibility of trying to get Gina to one of your meetings, which I think would be fabulous. She started an institute on gender in the media years ago, and she literally raises money for it all the time. This is her #1 issue, and this is all she talks about, and it's really been a wonderful opportunity to get to know and work with Gina. So why is it that people like Gina Davis, a movie star, or me as an FCC commissioner, would I've gotten involved in these issues? It's because of something that I think was said maybe in the video, and that is because we, all of us, especially girls and women, are inundated with images that are unrealistic, hypersexualized, photoshopped, and feature unrealistic as well. And they're actually unhealthy. There's been research that shows that 80% of people don't even want to see these ultra-thin models. And then how sad is it that models are trying to be thinner and thinner and actually dying from being so thin? Males outnumber females 3-to-1 in family films. So what do little girls, what do they think they can be if they don't even see themselves in films and on television? Gender stereotyping is one of the biggest problems in Hollywood and across every single platform. It is amazing that kids spend more time in front of screens than they do at school, sleeping, and certainly than they do with their parents. Nearly every time that I would be home, walk into a grocery store, go to church, people would just walk up to me and say, can't you do something about what our kids are seeing? I can't even watch TV with my child or with my grandchild. All of the programs are rated R. And the ads are as well. So every time I had the chance, I praised good, healthy, quality, family-friendly program. And I voted to fine the companies millions of dollars when I thought that they met the indecency standards set out by Congress. I was ridiculed and criticized. I had horrible stories written about me in the press. I had to totally quit reading blogs, and I can't even tell you what the gamers said about me because it's totally X-rated. But I didn't stop, and I'm glad that I didn't, because actually there are now more programs for young children and middle school children than ever before. Companies like Discovery, National Geographic, and the Hallmark Channel are making it in this environment making money by making good quality family and kid-friendly programming. And so that's again why I'm so thrilled that you are part of trying to change what is going on in our media ecosystem. Obviously, we want children and adults, but especially young girls, to be savvy and confident users of media, but also creators of media. The young women who have made the films that you all have watched, unbelievable talent in being a content creator. We want... Katie better be careful because they might just get stolen away. We want girls to be not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera, in the tech room and in the boardroom as well. We want them to look beyond the makeup, the unrealistic figures, all of the plastic surgery, and find their inner self and find the strength of character for the leadership skills of tomorrow. We want all of you to be confident, articulate, inspirational, and aspirational women. So what's next? What's next for all of us? I hope that I will continue to be able to work with you all as we are working on healthier media for our country. I'm continuing, obviously, to work on that effort. I'm also working on an initiative to encourage education, as we talked about, for STEM for girls, more high-tech jobs for women, and to create a safe and responsible online world for our children. I'm very interested in working to increase the number of women on corporate boards, which is dismally low, as you all may know, and adding board members and elected officials to our numbers. It's amazing that our country has never elected a female president, so that is top on my goal. Our mantra at the Healthy Media Commission has been for the past 2 years, if you can see it, you can be it. And so I think that this portrayal was excellent because we want to show girls on screen what they can be. Gina Davis, as you all may remember, was in the show Commander-in-Chief. And I say all the time at the end of my speeches when Gina and I are co-chairing something, I hope that she won't be the last Commander-in-Chief who's a woman in my lifetime, and I feel that too. Something interesting that you all may not know is women today, our generation, we are about to inherit or control $15 trillion. So we need to start using our economic power the way that men do to make better decisions and to change the world for good. So usually right now, I thank everybody again and sit down. But as I was really thinking about this and talking with Heidi about my remarks, she said, well, we'd really love to hear something about KD and what it really meant to you. You know, maybe it was something at college or, you know, maybe it was something after that. And so I was thinking about this book. Some of you all may have read the biography about Steve Jobs, and he talks about how his life looks like it was just this horizontal, just straight, it just went from here to here to here, and how he became one of the richest and most famous people, not only in our country, but in the world, and how all of his discoveries just happened. And he says, but that's really not true. There were a million twists and turns in my life. Bad things happened. There were even a few just total dead ends where he just didn't know what he was going to do next. And so some people have kind of described me as this Cinderella story because I kind of came out of nowhere in Tennessee and then ended up at the FCC in Washington and now at the ITU in Geneva. And so I decided that maybe this would be a good time for me to share something that I've really never shared before, and that is what is really behind the real Cinderella. And so, like many of you all, I had a wonderful childhood. I starred in lots of things. I was a ballerina. I thought I was going to go to New York one day. I had 2 doting parents because I was an only child. They were both themselves very successful. I lived in a wonderful small town where we all knew each other. We all left our doors open every night. I went to great schools. My house was always the slumber party house, so we were constantly having girls over. And then I went to UT and I walked into the Kappa Delta room, and it was just like I felt like this is where I've always meant to be. And you saw the beautiful composite and these beautiful shining faces and white roses everywhere. And I love the nautilus shell, so I could go on and on. And so everything was kind of going along great. It's freshman year. I had just met this great-looking guy who is still my husband today. And as I told you, my roommates became my KD sisters, which was just wonderful. And then out of nowhere, our phone rang in the dorm, and my mother was calling to tell me that my father, who was a general in the U.S. Army and was actually at the Army War College and was headed to the Pentagon, had stage 4 stomach cancer. And I was beyond shattered. He was my hero. He was my strongest supporter in life. And within a couple of months, he was gone. The next 2 years were kind of tumultuous for me. I was trying to really take a heavy load, and my mother became ill. And my mother had fought cancer for a long time. The first time that I heard the word cancer, I was 9 years old. So I'd really gotten used to it with her, and I was just used to having a survivor. But within 2 years, she was gone too. And so being an only child, I was literally all alone. I planned and executed 2 funerals and probated their wills. I sold houses and property and cars and furniture. I packed up their lives and my life, and I left the only hometown and house that I had ever known. And I was really, really kind of lost. But both my parents were so determined that I go to law school that I knew I had to get back to college and I had to get on track. And so I returned to school. And there were my roommates, of course, who have been with me throughout all of that. They all drove down, even in the midst of their busy college lives, and they sat with me during my parents' funerals. They sent dozens of white roses over and over and over. They comforted my tears. They had my first bridal shower. They were my bridesmaids. They invited me into their families' homes for my first Thanksgiving and Christmas by myself. They, like in the movie Elle Woods, they cheered when I got into law school. They were then at my law school graduation. They were with me at the hospital when I had my first baby boy. And as I said, they were with me at the White House when I was sworn in. So they have been with me every step of my own journey. So when I said, look to your left and look to your right, I just hope that you have found the sisters, the real sisters in life, who will sustain you and comfort and celebrate with you and just be there. So while I wanted to leave you with the you can be anything, you can do anything in the world that you put your mind to, I also want to say you can't do it alone. So keep your sisters close on that winding road of life, because in the end, it's the enduring legacy of our sisterhood that binds our hearts and that will sustain us no matter what life brings. And so I was Dorothy every year at at recruitment. And so I couldn't help but say, I use this in almost every one of my speeches to say that no matter where I go all around the world, that there really is no place like home. And the friendships that I have made, most of which have been through Kappa Delta, and that are the most important part of any life well lived. So, thank you all again for joining me in this work for a healthier media for our country, but not just for our girls, because we're the largest supplier of media for the whole world. So everything that you are doing, will be helping girls all around the world. Thank you.